Hi, welcome to Midwest Magic Cleaning. My name is Rihanna, no relation. And today we're going to be doing a house that is probably the most difficult house I've done to date, and not because of the condition. The condition was pretty bad, but the reason this one was difficult was because of the story and how I had to handle this. So the story's fairly heartbreaking. This was the house of the current owner's parents, and both of his parents passed away. His mother passed away of cancer, and he took it really, really hard, as you would expect, but I think he probably took her death harder than most people. It's been years, and he's still really, really upset about it. It like permeates every thought. After she passed, he inherited the house, and then he got cancer. He had surgery. I'm assuming he had chemo on top of it. He ended up, as far as I'm aware, he ended up beating cancer. He was also extremely overweight at the time, and he started the keto diet, and he lost well over 200 pounds, and he is continuing to lose. It's an incredible feat. He's on medication and has constant medical problems that he has to keep up with, but he is doing the work. He's lost just an absolute ton of weight, but he still deals with a lot of trauma, a lot of depression. And when you talk to him, it's just heartbreaking to listen to. He's the nicest guy in the world, but he's dealing with a lot. So his thoughts are constantly bouncing from his own problems to his mother's death, and then he's looking around this house, which has really not been decluttered since she had passed. Now, as far as I understand, she was a hoarder, but it's not one of the typical hoarders that we normally see. Like usually on this channel, we see a lot of really gross food stuff. We see a ton of filth and bugs and stuff like that. This house was really, really clean. It just had so much stuff in it. So he inherited the house of a woman who was a hoarder, and then I believe he has a little bit of hoarding tendencies in him as well. This clean out was highly, highly emotional for him. And it was so emotional that really he couldn't be here while we were doing our thing. And I get that. Normally, I would not do this. I wouldn't be here to throw things away while the person is somewhere else, because that is typically like a psychological negotiation for them. It is, if I'm disconnected from this, I put the decision and the power into someone else's hands so they can do this for me so I don't have to deal with it. It's a way of blocking out having to deal with those traumatic issues. However, this guy has been through trauma for years and years and years. I would suggest highly that he get therapy. But for right now, I'm considering what we're doing a much needed emergency clean out. We rented a dumpster and completely filled it by just cleaning 3 rooms, and we've still got a lot to go. So the difficulty in cleaning out a house like this is you only get kind of a general idea of what they want to throw away and what they want to keep, because nobody is going to think about all those items that are in the house, tens of thousands of items, and be able to remember which things they want to keep and which things have like real actual value to them. So you oftentimes get instructions like, let's keep any Christmas items that look handmade. Let's keep all of the Tupperware that's of this kind of a texture. You get instructions like that. And of course, you know there are certain things that you don't throw away, like jewelry, and if you find any money and stuff like that, that's all keepable. But when you're dealing with this much, it's very difficult to figure out what is good and what is not, and what can be donated, what can go in a dumpster. And especially when you're left alone to do this without the owner present, you have to take a lot of the executive decisions into your hands. So almost every time when you do a house like this and you're the one left in charge of doing the sorting and the decluttering, it's inevitable that you're going to get either a call or a text, and they're going to ask about very specific items. Did you see this? When you threw a bunch of stuff away in this room, did you throw this box away? I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you. I wanted to keep that. You'll get that a lot, and that makes it very nerve-wracking to declutter a house like this, because I have to think about this not only as what I would do if it was my house, but I also have to go through every item to make sure I'm not throwing anything important away, and I have to think, is this a good memory or is this a negative memory? This is the most difficult part about cleaning out the house of someone who's passed and left all their belongings to someone else. There is the idea that if we throw their things away, we're disrespecting the person who passed away. And so you feel like a guilt for getting rid of certain things, especially if it's something that the deceased person had an emotional attachment to. Say if they liked a teddy bear, but you don't really care about teddy bears, you still wouldn't throw it away because your mom loved this teddy bear so much. What I would suggest for anybody who's going through something like that is to think of it. I want to be kind of blunt here. There's only two outcomes of what would happen after a person dies. Either one, there is an afterlife, in which case that person is never going to ever for all of eternity have any connection to this physical object ever again because they're on another plane. Or two, there's no afterlife, in which case they have completely lost the ability to give the slightest crap because they no longer exist. Either way, this object is no longer theirs, and the memory that's tied to it is a memory that you personally have put there. This is now your memory, not theirs. And so you have to ask yourself, is this something I want or something that I am burdening myself by keeping? If it's the latter, then what you're keeping is a negative memory, and you need to get rid of it. You're not going to stop remembering your mom if that teddy bear isn't around. The things that you keep should be things that whenever you see it makes you happy because both you and your loved one loved that thing. But if, say, your mom passes and she has a giant collection of creepy looking dolls and you definitely don't like creepy looking dolls, you're doing yourself a disservice by keeping that whole collection. It's just taking up space in your house and it's interrupting your life. My suggestion would be to spin kick every one of those creepy dolls right in their creepy doll head faces, or eBay them, one of the two. But anyway, all that rambling is just to say that these types of houses are extremely difficult to clean because of those reasons. If it was just a case of clutter, I would have just grabbed this stuff by the armful and just dumpstered its face completely off. But I have to treat every single item with respect and consideration as I'm taking it out. Now, on top of all that, the mom had kept, one of her hoarding tendencies happened to be in mail and bills. She kept so much mail and so many bills dating back to like the early 2000s. There were bundles and bundles. There were thousands of magazines and tens of thousands of pieces of mail. And I had to, as quickly as I could, go through each one of those so that I was making sure I wasn't throwing away something crazy like the deed to a property or a declaration that the owner was a prince. I had to make sure everything that was going out because it was no longer needed. She had hundreds upon hundreds of old newspapers. So you just have to glance at those and say, okay, is this historical or is this just another newspaper in a pile of 500 newspapers? So anyway, we cleaned out that one. It used to be a bedroom, but now it's just a storage room. And a lot of the tubs and stuff that we took out of there, a lot of them went to the dumpster, but there's a whole bunch of tubs of clothes that are going to a local church. And so we're going to put everything back into that room that we didn't throw away so that he can haul that stuff off later. We're going into a utility room, and he told me the utility room hasn't looked this good in 30 years, and we're not even close to being done with it. So what I did was he gave me the instructions that any of the decorations in this room that were dusty or broken or just ratty looking, go ahead and get rid of them. That was very fortunate for me because almost every decoration in this room met that criteria. There was dryer lint all over all the top layers of everything that was on top of the mound. Underneath that, the weight of the top layer had smashed the middle and bottom layers to where it made a lot of things unusable. I found some books and stuff like that, but the books had like a lot of like foxing. It looks like little mold spots. So once those were damaged, beyond being readable, I figured those could go. Even if they weren't damaged, I mean, they're underneath this pile for years. No one has read those for years. No one's ever going to read them. Let's just get rid of them. So right now we're in phase 1 of cleaning this house, where basically you're not going to see a ton of like traditional quote unquote cleaning. What you're seeing is we're going to junk a lot of this stuff. Then we're going to vacuum some floors and we're going to do a tiny bit of wipe downs, but this is mostly just getting the old stuff out of here. Then in phase 2, I'm going to go back, do the closets and the bedrooms and bathrooms, and then we can get to the actual cleaning with chemicals and stuff like that. We do end up doing the kitchen on this video later on in this video. We came back for day 2 and I did like an actual traditional clean that took about 5.5 hours just on the kitchen alone. But whenever we go back after we get the main bulk of this stuff out, that's when I'll start doing the crazy stuff like liquid gold on all the wood and doing furniture polish and all the crazy stuff that makes everything glow and shine. When I do that, I will be doing it pantsless. So just a heads up that I don't clean unless I'm pantsless. That's why they call me Pantsless Cleanin' Johnny back in Seattle. They're like, yo, man, is that old Pantsless Cleanin' Johnny? Like, I don't know, man. He looks like he's got pants on. And they're like, yeah, but he ain't cleaning yet. But they'll see. If I start cleaning, they'll know. The next round of videos that I make on this house, especially if we get into doing the closets, should be pretty interesting because some of these closets have not been opened up in at least 20 years, if not 30 plus. So you see that thing on the background that's got the little race cars and stuff on it? Those are sliding wooden doors and they've never fully opened on their own. I got them to open with a rubber mallet, just banging on the sides of it. We're going to open that up and take all the stuff out, and he claims that in one of these closets there's a bunch of really old baseball cards and a bunch of like toys from, I don't remember the era. I mean, if he said it's 30 years, then we're talking the 1990s, right? So there may be toys from the 90s or even earlier in there that we can check out, and then I'm just going to stop cleaning and play with them for hours on end. They call me Playing with 90s Toys Johnny is what they call me. Now this living room, we're not going to do a ton with this. We pick up the clutter, we picked up the trash. I did a little bit of a wipe down. We actually moved that couch back a little bit by a few feet just to open up the room. And it doesn't seem like much on video, but in real life it made the room feel huge. That is also a hide-a-bed, and so it was difficult to move back, but I mean, moving it back and then vacuuming underneath all that really, really helped the room out a lot. I don't know if you can hear my dog drinking in the background. Hey, you're drinking loud, man. Stop drinking so loud. Loud drinker. I don't put up with loud drinking. Now, this is the entrance of the house, and it's got like its own separate living room, I guess. It's got like a double living room in it. And this carpet was just pristine when we came in, but going back and forth between all these rooms, we just dragged around so much dirt. So I'm just going to give that a quick vacuum. The utility room had so much stuff on it, I had to sweep it first. That's not tile down there or linoleum. That's one of those real thin layer carpets. But I had to sweep that with a broom in order to not kill the vacuum. And then I can go back with the vacuum and suck it. Sorry, I don't like laughing at my own jokes, but sometimes I'm stupid. This is what I call a true pile. It's just random stuff. There's some cleaners, there are books, random cords, light bulbs. It's just a mishmash of stuff. There's even like crystal glasses in there. You see that box that's got the little maroon boxes inside of it? Inside those are these little Christmas crystal glasses, and the glasses themselves are pristine. They're absolutely beautiful. The boxes are destroyed because they've been sitting there for so long that they've taken on water from, leaks and leaking chemicals and water and stuff like that. But I mean, fortunately, we were able to save some of that, all the crystal glasses. But a lot of the bottles of chemicals have either gone bad or they're expired, or they've sat there for so long the chemicals have just literally eaten little pinholes through the containers. Like, that's why a lot of this stuff is ruined. So all you can do in that situation is just get a box, a couple trash bags, and just sort through and pick out everything that's ruined and everything that's garbage and everything that you know is never going to be used again, and then save the stuff that looks like it may have some use. Vacuum this floor right in its stupid face. All right, this is day 2. We are now in the kitchen. This room we had way more leeway in. He told us that anything we thought could go in the trash, just trash it. He said any pans that had even a slight dent in it, or if it looked burnt, or it was just old looking, we could go ahead and trash those. So I took some liberties in this room. We also had some leeway with the food because since he's on keto, that narrows down what he can and can't eat. So any of the old stuff that was left in the house, like pasta, you can't eat on keto, we can just clear out whole cabinets. Now, we're going to go back, speaking of cabinets, we're going to go back at some point next week, and we're going to empty out all these cabinets and reorganize all these dishes. He has an absolutely massive amount of dishes for a single man living in this house. Way too much. Now, some of it he's going to keep because it's valuable and it was his mom's and he wants to keep some of his mom's stuff. I get it. And I'm cool with that. I mean, I have to be cool with it because it's not my house. Suck at me. But I really want to get rid of as much as I can and clear up a lot of cabinet space for him, because even after all this decluttering, he's still way over cluttered. And we could really get rid of about 80% of everything he owns and still have a full house. But for right now, we're doing all the visible stuff. So everything on the counters, which is a lot, floors, sink, we'll end up stacking a few dishes here and there. And then everything in the kitchen had like a sticky film over it. So I'm just wiping down each of the objects that pass through my hands and using what I can for decoration, and then trying to get rid of everything else. Yeah, all those drawers need to be emptied too. They're just filled with random stuff. Normally, when somebody has a collection of stuff this vast, they're really particular about how they put it away. So this really surprised me whenever I opened up the silverware drawer and it was all just thrown in there. And then I opened up another cabinet and it's like there are plates and pans and cups and everything all thrown into the same cabinet, and it's kind of that way all the way around the kitchen. I really want to take all that stuff out to bare cabinets, wipe them all down and clean them, sanitize them, and then designate cabinets for, this one's just for cups. This one's just for plates and bowls. Now these cabinets are for dishes that go on stovetop. This cabinet's for nothing but baking ware. This cabinet is for live dogs, live barking, snapping dogs that one would keep in a cabinet. But right now, it's just everything's kind of thrown together. Plates, dishes, cups, dogs, like all that is just kind of scattered. But we'll fix him up. But right now, my biggest concern is just getting the house, especially the rooms that he's the most used to being in, cleaned up enough to where when he comes home from work, he can open up the door and not feel that chaos. I want him to be able to come home and just take a breath and not breathe in stress and exhale stress and just be permeated and marinated in stress. By the way, side note, we are almost at 300 members now on the members only section. That's crazy. Like, I would have been happy with 3, but we're almost at 300. I guess that wasn't a side note. That was more just a note. It was neither a side nor a note. It was just a thing I said. Regardless, almost 300 members. For those who don't know, the members section is an area where I post an extra video every Wednesday, and then sometimes I'll throw in some extra photos of me and the guys being goofy, some extra posts, some updated news, things like that. But I always post an extra video every Wednesday there that only the members see. The join button can be found on my page. A lot of times they're attached to the video, like you may be able to find a join button right on this video if you pause it. What I found out, I'm still figuring out how this all works, but from what I found out, if you are not subscribed, the join button won't show up. And if you're on an Apple product, the join button won't show up on the YouTube app, but it will show up if you go to YouTube via the browser and then go to my channel from there. But this is all like a YouTube and Apple thing. I have no idea why it would or wouldn't show up. I have no idea how to troubleshoot it. The only thing that I do is when I have trouble, I use the same Google that everyone else does to try to figure it out. I have no idea why some people see it and why some don't. It's probably because some of them worship the devil, and YouTube knows that, and they don't want devil worshiping heathens to show up on my members only page, because they know what's going to happen. They show up in my page and they're going to get a spin kick in their neck. That's exactly what they're going to get. I'll tell you that right now. I won't tell you in a minute. I'll tell it to you now. You've done been told, son. He's got a bunch of like forks and knives and spoons all separated out into jars. And I think that's because his utensil drawer is just jam-packed with just random stuff. So whenever I take all the stuff out of the drawers and cabinets, I will set him up an actual utensil drawer or like a proper silverware drawer. On these countertops, I'm using Mr. Clean's Clean Freak, and I just wipe that down to begin with. And then for all the stains, I'm using a magic eraser, also made by Mr. Clean. And then for the hood of this stove, I used the same Clean Freak, but I'm using a scouring pad. And the grease was so thick up here that I ended up doing this twice. I probably could have done it a third time. And really, after I did it the second time, it probably wouldn't have hurt for me to go back over this with Barkeeper's Friend. Whenever I go back and start doing the cabinets and stuff, I may end up redoing that again with Barkeeper's Friend just to see if it polishes up a little better. Oh, hey, look, more dishes. Oh, speaking of which, I told the members this already because they're better than you. But we have t-shirts coming. I've got a Suck It shirt in the works right now. It's already designed. We're getting ready to put it on the market. We're going to have some of the catchphrases and goofiness that we use here on the channel and just put them right on t-shirts so you can put it right on your body. Or you can just hold the t-shirt and not wear anything at all, because that's how I'm planning on wearing them. That's how I'm planning on quote unquote wearing it. So I'll wear one of the t-shirts, just not on my torso. I don't even know what that means, but it sure sounds pervy when I say it like this. For the sink, we use Barkeeper's Friend and just scour the crap out of that thing, and then I wipe it down with my APC, which is 70% isopropyl alcohol, 30% water, and 4 or 5 drops of Dawn dish soap. That's just to get the residue out and make it shine a little bit. And that stuff you can use on anything that shines. Windows, mirrors, granite, stone top counters. It's really, really good for not only getting things shined up, but leaving it without streaks. Now we're going to be going through a lot of the food that's been sitting out. He's been so racked with depression and grief that he hasn't gone through any of this old food since his mom passed. So almost everything that I'm touching here went past its expiration date in 2019 to 2022. So if the best buy date was 2019, it means it was probably there maybe a half a year before that, or maybe even further back in time. So this stuff could have been bought around 2015 to 2017, and then it just stayed there forever. So a lot of this ended up going straight to the dumpster. And by straight to the dumpster, I mean right in my face hole. I'll eat an expired food. I don't care, son. That's how I roll. Oh, gross food-eating Johnny. That's what they call me back in Vegas. They got whole cults that worship me back there. Eating gross food and getting weird haircuts. It's all we used to do back in the day. If you ever have a surface that's this cluttered, my biggest piece of advice is to just move it. It doesn't matter where you put the stuff. Put it on the floor for all I care. Just move it off of that surface entirely. Get it all the way down to the bare surface, then clean that surface. In this case, I'm going to use liquid gold to just polish it up real quick. And then that forces you to take everything that you just moved and find a home for it. But by moving it, you're giving yourself a clean blank slate to work with. So now everything that I put back on this table, when I start to move it all back, it either has to have a purpose or it has to be decoration, one of the two. It can't just be random stuff out there. Now I'm a little bit in a bind here because there's so much stuff to work with that I can't physically find a home for it all. So this is where I need to get a little bit creative. So I found the giant bowl, and I'm going to use that for pretty much all the additional random snacks that I find. Then I've got another basket that I'm going to use for all the random like household items, LED light bulbs, screwdrivers, random maintenance tools and stuff like that. And then I have another basket I found that I can put in, I guess you'd call them office utensils. I don't know how to describe it. It's like reading glasses, a little notebook, some pens. There's also a little bit of medication that I put in there. But the key to that is to just do it as symmetrical as we can. And the more symmetrical we can make it, the less cluttered it appears. It's tricking people into thinking that there's less clutter than there actually is. We were wondering if that Bush NA was his that's down by the fridge. And then I tried to pick it up so I could see if there was an expiration date on it. And it was literally fused to the floor. So I'm like, okay, well, we're just going to assume that that's out of date. Also behind that little brick peninsula looking thing, that's a real lemon tree that he's growing in his living room. And that's an actual lemon. That, for those of you who live down south, that probably doesn't mean much to you, but I live in the middle of Illinois, and we just don't get lemon trees, especially inside. So now I have to grow a lemon tree in my house, even though I don't really eat lemons at all. In fact, I'm quite known to punch lemons. If you're a lemon and you get up in my face, you're going to get some, is what I'm saying. I don't put up with it. Anyway, we will be back to this house probably this coming Wednesday and definitely this Friday. So we're going to have another video coming from this house. We've got the dumpster for 14 days, and by the end of this coming week, he will have had it for 7. So we're going to make a push to get this entire house done. So I think whenever we go back this coming week, we're going to dive into those closets, and you will freak whenever you see those. They are packed so tight that whenever you open the closet door, the stuff inside keeps its shape, like it's pressed against the door. And so it's all smashed together. There is no room to put anything. Like, I don't think you could even add a piece of paper to the pile that's already there. So we're going to start pulling all that stuff out and do a whole bunch more junking. And then hopefully get him on the right track so he can enjoy a clear, clean, normal house with actual storage space in it. Thanks for watching, members. I will see you on Wednesday. For everyone else, you can go straight to hell. No, I'm just kidding. I'll see you next weekend. Later.